There are definitely buyer opportunities in this shifting market. Let's talk about it, Matt Emerson.
Today on the Wandering But Not Lost podcast.
This is the Wandering But Not Lost WBNL podcast, where real estate and reality meet. And now your hosts, Jan O'Brien and Matt Emerson.
Well, welcome to the WBNL Wandering But Not Lost podcast, where real estate and reality meet. This is episode 208. You can find all of our show notes over at WBNLpodcast.com. We're going to continue our shifting market series today, Jan O'Brien. We talked about getting more listings last week. Today, we're going to shift over to buyers.
Yes, I definitely, and we're going to talk a little bit about the fact that is one of the opportunities, in my opinion, is the seller who wants to be a buyer. We'll get to that, though. So
love that.
So let's dive in and talk about what is happening now. We're covering reports nationally, and then, of course, practicing in Vegas and Tampa. What's interesting is Las Vegas and Tampa are two of the markets that are really always, Tampa is a hot market, and Vegas has gone up as becoming one of the most affordable places. It's so interesting being back here and talking to people, and how many people are saying, "Oh my God, it's so expensive here." And if you put it into perspective, Vegas has always been underpriced, right?
Absolutely.
It's been super affordable, and it's what attracted and what I think helped grow so much. And so this appreciation hit Vegas even bigger, in a bigger way, where they'll be doing things like, we're seeing, 18% appreciation nationally. And in Vegas, it's like 25, 30%, right? And Tampa is also like that, a super overpriced market now. And so these two markets are the ones that, of course, when things start to shift, there's others as well. But I just happen to know both of these.
Yeah.
It's like it hits it more. I talk to clients that are around the country, and they're not having these major shifts that are happening. It's always been sort of okay for them. So,
right.
We're talking today on, generally speaking, the market has definitely shifted. So we're going to go through a couple of those things. Depending on your market, there's always opportunities in every market, right? So for me right now, buyers have been frustrated. The last 2 years, this has been the typical buyer. Super frustrated, tons of offers, some stories of people writing 30, 40 offers, not getting it, competing with people who have cash, whether it's an investor, just people who made it good in the stock market or made it great in crypto, for example.
Right.
Which people are now hurting. It's just so amazing. It's like a big roller coaster. It's like, woohoo, the stock market, crypto, we got millionaires, let's go buy property. And now it's like, oh my God, I have nothing. I better get out of the market, the stock market, and go put it into real estate, right? I'm going to wait for the real estate market to crash. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today, because headlines just create more chaos for people, because if you don't actually do the homework and you're reading the tweet or you're reading the headline, you're like sitting on the fence waiting for the market crash. And frankly, I don't think we're going to have a crash. We're going to have a slight adjustment. Here in Vegas, I believe we're going to have a dip slightly. And then, because of stuff we'll talk about, and we don't know, nobody can exactly know what's going to happen with the economy or the world. So we just have to keep watching it, right? So what's happening? Interest rates, for sure, fact, spiked up. Everybody for 2 years has been talking about 3 and 4, less than 4, 2 something. Those days are gone. And that was there because the Fed brought that rate down to 0 during the pandemic, so it would simulate people going out and doing things. All right, we're past that now. So now we have inflation. Inflation's the enemy of the interest rate, right? So it's all about like, okay, everybody, we got going too fast. Now we need to slow it down, stop demanding so many things so we can get the prices under control, right? So for a week now, the interest rates have been a little bit below 6. And the projections there, Matt, are if inflation, could they peak more by the end of the year? It all depends on how quickly we're able to get inflation under control. Now, there was a report that came out yesterday that was more positive about inflation. It was better than expected, which then caused the rates to dip a little bit. So here's the deal. They're around 6%. They vary depending on, so you have to have conversations with buyers. This is what we're going to talk about. It's possible to buy the interest rate down. There's lots of things that could be done, but it's definitely impacting the buyer's ability. And it wouldn't be such a nightmare for buyers, the average buyer, if the prices weren't so high.
That's right.
Right? So we have that. Available inventory is picking up, but to me, it's all perspective. it's picking up compared to the 2 years of going through the pandemic, which was super low inventory. So we're not anywhere near where we were prior to the pandemic. That coupled with the fact that this is a fact, for 10 plus years nationally, builders have been building less homes, significantly less homes, whether we had a pandemic or not, we would have had a shortage. We would have this shortage of inventory. It's compounded by so many sellers who didn't want to sell their homes during the pandemic, and the challenge of, if I sell, where do I go? That's all what's been happening. So we do have more inventory compared to the last 2 years, which is good news for buyers that still want to buy. Pending sales have slowed for the last 2 months nationally, definitely here in these two markets, because I think it's a little bit of sticker shock plus, oh my gosh, the interest rates went up. Let's pause for a minute. And maybe, this is what I keep hearing from buyers, we're waiting until the prices come down, because like everybody just thinks we're miraculously going to have this housing crash, and then they're going to all jump in. And so this is the mentality. Think about this, Matt. Cosmo and I were talking about this yesterday. So imagine that there's all these people. Part of the pending sales decline is regular people wanting to buy homes to live in, investors sitting on the sideline waiting for the crash. So if there is because of that, more inventory, not enough sales, and the prices adjust down, what's going to happen? Everybody's going to jump back in, which will cause all the craziness that we just went through, and the prices will spike. That's a combination of 2 words. I don't even know. But anyway, this is the reality, So I'll get to at the end about that. I want to have you have to understand the stats in the market so you can have an educated conversation with your buyers to help them decide what's best for them, really. Now, if you're an investor, that's a different story than if you're just a home buyer wanting to buy for your personal reasons, right? We'll get to that, because it should not be all about that. It ought to be, it's better than renting. Here's why. I've done my homework. It costs just as much to rent. I might as well have the benefits of home ownership. I want to live in this area. I want the people we work with, it's like, this is my first home. I want to be able to buy a home, right? So the other facts we're seeing, sellers are definitely reducing prices, okay, because of the things I just said. A home doesn't go on the market and sell in 2 minutes or 2 hours or 2 days even. The average time on the market in the last month or so has increased to almost a month and a half to 2 months of inventory, just because of these numbers. And if a seller needs to sell and they're sitting on the market a couple weeks and it's finally taken a little while for agents to help sellers understand this, they have to reduce their prices. So we're seeing tons of reductions in prices. And the new
John, because I know you've been on a couple of listing appointments in the last week or so, or quite a few actually, that the sellers, when it's on the market and they know it's not moving, they're reducing their prices. But sellers that are brand new wanting to sell their house, where are they at on the realistic spectrum?
They're all over the spectrum. And so just in my personal experience,
so like it always is.
There's people who understand that that's the market, and then there's the people who just don't want to accept that, and then it's all about the real estate agent. So as real estate agents, our job is to educate the consumer.
That's right.
I wish that you could get multiple offers. Now, here's the deal. We're showing lots of buyers right now. We have a property that we have a buyer that likes a property. It's in really nice shape. It's in a price point that's popular. It's under 300. It's got 15 offers on it.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw it, I was like, this is going to have multiple offers on it. Because, again, how many times have we said this on our show? During the pandemic, prior to the pandemic, during this housing shortage crisis, where we are right now, a property that is renovated, because nobody wants to deal with renovations. So an older property that's 20 years old or wherever, that people have put the money in to update it, and it looks awesome, and it's priced right, it's going to sell. And it's going to sell, and it's going to be the one that gets the multiple offers. It's all the other properties. And see, what we went through here in the last couple of years is somebody could put their home on the market and go, I didn't have to put 40 grand in renovations. I'm still getting a crazy price for my house. That is what we have seen shift. So to your point, it's, okay, Mr. Seller, if you had put $30,000 or $40,000 in, I think we could create a bidding war. But here's reality. What's the goal? Do you want to get out of here? Do you want to sit on the market for 3 months? Because if you keep it priced here, it's just going to sell the competition. Because before we used to go, oh my gosh, there's nobody in your neighborhood. Let's get it on the market. Let's get some activity.
Interesting strategy. If you have that perfect house that you know is going to be the hot one on the market, if you underprice that house, I wonder if you could get more for that house.
Thank you. That's 100% what just happened on this deal. We are looking at it going, oh, this realtor put it down below market to get the bidding war, and it worked. There's 15 offers and more.
Sure.
Coming. Okay, so they're back to that. So that's a blessing. If somebody
interesting strategy, risky strategy. I don't know if a lot of sellers would go for that, but
it's risky. But I will tell you that if it's in a certain price point, I would probably recommend that.
Sure. Especially the lower price points, right? Yeah,
I agree. A high price point, I might be. You know what? You just might get one offer, and they're going to offer you this price. And now we're in a situation we can't counter it higher than list price. So
interesting.
So anyway, that's the cool downs. Those are the facts. These are the things that are happening. Okay, so where are the opportunities? Let's look at that. So clearly, more inventory equals more homes to consider. And that is 100% what's happening. And now we're back to the kind of days where you're like, all right, Mr. Buyer, we've got a lot more to look at. Let's go see what we can get. I feel other than the circumstance we just discussed, there will be less bidding wars. And so many buyers, Matt, are so burned out. They've been trying. And so this is the conversation to say, yes, I understand you tried that last year. Yes, I know the interest rates are up a little bit, but look at where the opportunities are right now. Okay. Now there are people on the sidelines right now, and part of why people are waiting to say, "Let me go down lower." I don't want to buy at the top of the market and then see the prices come down, and now I'm kind of like, "Oh wow, I waited." And they're trying to time the market, and it's just impossible to time the market, in my opinion, because you don't know until you're already past the market where the high was. We think we're really close to it right now, or maybe we've passed it, but we're not going to honestly know that until 2 months from now.
Yeah.
Because we track them numbers here in Vegas every week. Well, the June numbers yesterday was the last day of June. In a couple of days, we can look at the July numbers, but we know the median sales price is going to peak up a little bit because of it's sales that closed in June, but they were under contract in May or before May, right? So maybe July we see a flat. Like all of a sudden we're going to go from 482 was the median in Vegas to maybe close to 490, maybe 480 something. That's what we think it's going to be looking at the 4 weeks of tracking for single family. But we'll know, I think July and August are going to be flat, but maybe we see a dip. It's so interesting. We love looking at the numbers because we've been kind of spot on with looking at it and seeing it, but we'll see what happens as we move forward. So I do think that there are opportunities to negotiate. Our last 2 transactions, we've been able to get $10,000 less.
Yeah.
For our buyers. Okay. In a under $300,000 price point is pretty significant. So
sure,
we're getting offers. We're being able to negotiate a better price. Get some costs paid. So there's a couple strategies, right? Let's go in. What do you want, Mr. Buyer? Do you need closing costs covered? Then let's offer fair market and get your closing costs covered. We're used to not be able to get that. Or do you want to cover your own costs, write a clean offer, and just get a better price?
Right.
Those are the things that are happening. Buying down the interest rate is where, get your lender to help somebody realize if their goal is to stay in the home for a while and they're buying a $300,000 or $400,000 home, is it worth spending $4,000 to $5,000 buying the interest rate down? I don't know. That's a personal decision each person has to make. It's only 1 point's going to bring the interest rate down a quarter point.
Yeah.
But maybe 2 points brings it down a little bit more. And so, and then for the other issue is the interest rates are going to chase inflation. So if we keep having inflation numbers go up, the interest rates could go above 6% before they settle back down. If you listen to Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, in his last thing, he basically said to homebuyers, he kind of said it out there out loud.
Yeah, he did.
Hey, maybe if you're a first-time homebuyer, maybe you pause and wait until we get things under control, and maybe there's more to choose from, and maybe if the interest rate goes up, and maybe it comes back down next year.
I thought that counsel was interesting,
right?
And here's my tip. As I'm doing all this other stuff, I thought that was interesting.
All the real estate industry is like, what? You're telling people
exactly
right now? Which, if people listen to that, and it's kind of happening, right? So anyway, you don't know what the interest rates are going to do. So they could go a little higher and then stay in the 6s, but I feel like they're going to stay in the 5s by the end of the year, and maybe they, but they move around a lot. So just you got to, if you're a buyer, if you have a buyer, you got to get the buyer. You need to be up on all of this as a real estate agent, but work with a great lender who can really counsel them on their options and how they can get into the home that they want. Clearly, people don't have as much buying power if the prices are higher than they were a couple years ago, and they are significantly, and the interest rates are higher. So what they could have done 2 years ago or 1 year ago is different than today.
That's right.
So, and then a seller, I think there's a huge opportunity for the seller who's been sitting on the sidelines, causing part of the inventory issues because they had no place to go. And in my opinion, talked about it last week, I think there's a window of opportunity right now, maybe for a few months, where a seller can't get the peak of what was multiple offers unless their home is really renovated and so on. But they still can get great prices. We haven't seen a dip in prices yet, right?
Right.
We're having adjustments. And so it's this mentality of your neighbor sells their house for $450. Next month, you put your house on the market and you get $460, right? That is what I think is where people have to come to reality. And it's like,
Yep.
You might be able to get $450. That's awesome because that's 40% more than your house was worth 2 years ago. Wow.
Right.
Awesome.
Or if you've been in the house for a while, the percentage of since you originally bought it
Yes.
is absurd.
You have
Exactly.
you have $150,000 in equity that you didn't have. Thank you, pandemic.
It's a lot of just the mania of the pricing, the price mania. It's like, I got to get the highest. It's the greatest thing in the world. So
But now you still get that equity, and now you go become the buyer, and you negotiate a better deal, or maybe you can buy that bigger house, or maybe you're buying.
It certainly is a better opportunity for people that are
great opportunity for buyers, sellers who want to be buyers also. So
totally
that
agree.
to me is the opportunity, is to go find your buyers that are sellers who need to sell.
Yep.
And honestly, what we're finding, Cosmo and I, is we are 100% finding the people, because we're attracting people to our social media channel to come in that are finding us because they have to sell a house in wherever state they're coming from, and then they're moving here.
Yeah.
So let's go turn to what the economists are saying, and then we've got a great link to a Realtor.com article that just came out, has a ton of charts and graphs in it. I recommend that you look at it. It's something you could share with your clients. If you're not comfortable, then get something like this, get up to speed with it, but you can include this, or it'd be a great thing to share with buyers and sellers so you can start the conversation. Like, what do you do? How do you start the conversation? Well, you send something to them of value, and then you call up and go, hey, have you been seeing what's happening with the market? Let's talk about it. Have you thought about selling and then buying, right? So the flattening of home prices, maybe a dip. That's what a lot of people are saying, and this is what I feel is going to happen here in Vegas. I think we're going to see a flattening out, a deceleration of the appreciation, meaning that example I said of 450 last month, now it's 460. Right. I think that's what's slowing down. Experts have adjusted their pricing, and I've watched this, and I'm talking about the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, NAR, the Mortgage Bankers Association. We use Keeping Current Matters, who then tracks those 5 or 6 major economists at those places. So in the beginning of the year, they were anywhere from 3 to 10%. A lot of those guys have adjusted upwards a little bit, but you're seeing anywhere from 6 to 10%. So the economists are saying by the end of 2022, we'll see somewhere between a 6 and 10% appreciation as a national average, even with these changes and dips. So nobody's saying a 10% decrease. Okay, nobody's saying a 5% decrease. They're all saying, because the first part of the year here in Vegas, it's been 24%. So we would have to have massive changes in the last part of the year for Vegas to get to 10%. I think it could be 15 to 20% for Vegas. It just depends on the next few months. We'll see. Same for Tampa, right? And then a return to that, 5 to 8% appreciation that is more normal and sustainable in 2023. That's what people are saying. Inventory is still under supply because of the building shortages, right? And the builders aren't all jumping out and building right now.
No,
they're worried about. They can't. Well, they can't because they've had so many fallouts. So
not only that, just supply issues too.
Yeah, they haven't still continued supply. So we're going to have a continue, and this is why I feel like there's not anywhere near where it was in the 2008 recession. Even if we go into a recession. Some argue that we are in a recession. It's 2 quarters of GDP decreasing, that we are in some type of recession. We've had one, so I guess we have to wait and see. And I think we'll just have to watch and see. I mean, gas prices are a good indicator. It seems like gas prices came down a little bit this week. Did you see that in California?
Yeah, ours are down 20 cents.
Yeah. So let's see what happens, and they're saying it's because more supply arrives magically. Right? So I don't know. I don't even know. I just think that's a whole lifetime ongoing conversation about why all these things happen, right? So we do know inventory is still going to be down, which means that there's still demand, and there's still people buying. And so I just feel like, I think it's pretty accurate to say, a flattening, maybe a bit of a dip, a mini little dip, and then, back on track. And so what does that all say? If you're a home buyer, it's great to buy, because you're, generally speaking, real estate real estate is a hedge against inflation for sure, because your rents could go up in a year from now, but
That's right.
walk into a 30-year mortgage, you're going to know what your payment is, right?
That's
And
right.
your taxes and insurance may change slightly, but there you have it. So that's the forecast, moving forward, that maybe a return to 5 to 8%. We'll see. I just think it's not going to be a crash. And then do we have one more thing to share? Yeah. Okay. So this is kind of interesting. This was just in this article that we have a link to in the show notes. Realtor.com has a whole charts. Bless you. But this is the adjustments, their updated forecast. I put on my glasses. I can't see this. So at the beginning of the year, they said 2.9% appreciation. They're now saying 6.6%, because we've had 6 months of pretty much high appreciation, right? Existing home sales are still projected to be high. High number, not even though they're down a little bit right now. They're down compared to the previous two years. What we have, existing homes, definitely. Availability up 15%. This is what we've had for the last 2 years, where it's been down year over year. Now we're seeing more inventory. Again, that's a product of more people putting their homes on the market, less people wanting to buy, results in more available inventory at the end of the month, right? And then what does it have? Mortgage rates, they're projecting, Realtor.com said they were going to stay around the 3s. Well, hello. Inflation
Right.
kicked in, and now they're saying 5.5 by the end of the year. And then housing starts, staying flat, up 5%, which is not enough to make it. And home ownership rates at 65.6%. So there's Realtor.com making adjustments based on what's happened, right?
Yeah.
So, and then this is where I think it all boils down to. The conversation to have with home buyers is, and again, it depends if they're an investor. It's real clear what people are doing if they're an investor. They're looking for, when is the right time to buy? Am I going to flip it? Am I going to put a tenant in there? And that's a whole different conversation. So I don't want to talk about investors. I want to talk about the people that are your buyers that want to buy because they want to be their primary residence. And I think it's a conversation to get people away from all this. Is the interest rate, the this, the that, and get down to bottom line. People have to have a place to live. So it starts with a rent versus buy analysis, right? There's so many tools for that. So have people figure out, is it better for them to rent right now and then buy? Well, the problem with that is probably, in my opinion, this is what I just showed you with all those numbers. We just talked about those numbers. Go look what the experts say. If you were to buy today and a year from now, would the prices be lower or not? And most experts and economists are saying they'll be higher.
Yeah.
The price might have a dip and a little movement and so forth, but it's going to, we just talked about 10% appreciation for this year, and then maybe 5 to 8 the next year. No one's saying the sky's falling now. What could happen for the sky to fall and prices to crash? We'd have to have so much inventory flood the market. And the only way we know, when we think about this, is tons more sellers put their homes on the market, but also investors who are buying and holding, because we are turning into a renter's nation, and all these hedge funds that own all these properties that have tenants in it, and they want to dump the properties on the market for whatever reason, that could cause a problem. But other than that, Matt, I don't see where there's so much inventory and not enough demand that the prices depreciate quickly. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
So it's
Too many unknowns.
It's rent
As
versus.
always.
What does your client want? Is it better to do that? You can't say it's going to be higher or lower. You can simply say, let's crunch the numbers. What's your risk tolerance? And what do you want? do you want to be in a rental? Do you want to be able to have your own property? Do you want the benefits of the tax write-offs and the improving your property, or the sense of people do like? Some people prefer to rent. Some people prefer, I'm looking at it now and I'm like, I'm a big advocate of owning a home. I've had numerous homes over the years and currently don't have them. It's because I was in that 2008 cycle where I had to get rid of both of my houses. They were upside down here in Vegas. So I don't know. I would love to be able to own a home again. And I'm kind of like going through the whole process of, it's okay to rent right now, right? And then we'll see where the market goes. But I'm also in a position where I've switched places and I have to make that determined. But that's the point. Everybody should do a personal analysis. And even if you help somebody, we're helping people right now that are moving here. There's reasons they need to be able to be 6 months on the job here before they can even actually qualify for a loan. So help them get into a rental, stay in touch with them, and they're a future buyer. So that's it. I just think there's huge opportunities at the moment. So what are you doing to take
and as always, staying up on the market is the key thing. We talk about ad nauseum, right? Yeah, be the local expert. Yep. You'll be the one to be able to counsel people through all of that, right? Take them through the steps.
The only way to do it is you have to actually not be afraid of the numbers and actually listening and reading articles and staying informed, right?
Good stuff. Hey, we will put the link to that article in the show notes today. You can find our show notes over at WBNLpodcast.com. It's going to be episode 208. So that'll be in the show notes for you this week. Good stuff, Jen O'Brien, as always. Next week, we have a special, or not next week, in 2 weeks, we have a special guest. Rich Brodkin is going to be with us. He owned the Brodkin Group in Las Vegas, a hugely successful team, in the top 1% of teams in the United States. We love that stat, and I've heard it quite a few times over the years. And I believe he was all the way up to number 3 in the state of Nevada, if I'm not mistaken on that. But anyway, he's going to be on to talk about his team. But the exciting thing is, and Jan and I, we also talk about this, especially in our Team Builder program, that we teach you how to start your team and put it all the way to an exit strategy. He executed the exit strategy, which is so freaking awesome. So he's going to be with us to talk about. Yeah. He always said, butt on the beach or butt on the sand or something like that. Yeah. And he's moving towards that goal. It's exciting to watch someone actually work that and put the plan together to actually sell the team like he did. So it'll be awesome to talk to him, and he can share some strategies that he had used during that process, which, wasn't an overnight process for him. And we were privy to a lot of that way that went down. So it's good stuff. So looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
What else, Jennifer?
4th of July.
Yeah. Were you doing anything?
Yeah, we're going to go see some early fireworks. I'm going to take my nephew and great-nephew are all going to a soccer game on Saturday. The baseball team here, it's very inexpensive tickets. It's good family fun and fireworks. And then fireworks, of course, in Vegas are all over the place. So Monday night, it's best in the local places. So I'm in Summerlin right now. I'm staying with friends in Summerlin, so I'm going to be able to probably see the Red Rock Casino fireworks.
I bet you those are awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Gonna be awesome. What about you?
What's the weather been like? Is this like still bleeding hot? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not horrible. It's been a little breezy. It's so funny. We were working with some people from Portland yesterday, and they, of course, Portland is rainy, and they're moving here because they really like it. And I'm like, yeah, it's like all here's back showing homes out here. It's 103, 104, or whatever, and I'll just be like, you're not staying out in the sun, so you just find the shade. It's so amazing. We just let's go stand over here and we'll talk for a minute. And then you're just like, it's fine. It's awesome. As soon as you step out into the sun, you're like, okay, we can only stay out in the sun so long.
I know, you bake. It's true.
But there's a breeze and it's nice and it's not humid. I'm just going to say that. It's not humid here.
Jan O'Brien, you played a pretty good game of saying that was okay for the year that you were in Florida. So I give you kudos for that.
But now that I did, because I was trying to convince myself I
know you were.
I could acclimate because I grew up in humidity in Georgia. Right. So, but it is about acclimation. It takes time for your body to acclimate to wherever it is you live.
Yes, it
does. And I was like, I was just drained. Now I'm like, I get tired, being out in the sun here, but
it's not funny. Going from humidity to dry heat is one thing. Those people coming from the Pacific Northwest, that's going to be a whole nother ball game. We're tired of the rain. Well, you might be missing the rain after.
Don't worry, you got 310 days of sunshine here.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
all good. All right, so good. Join us at our next episode. We'll learn about how you too could have an exit strategy. We can
That's
help.
right. Until then, get up, get out, and be forever wandering, but not lost. And be safe this weekend.
Peace.